I'm Graham Jones and welcome to channel KT4, broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. You can join in by sending in questions during the show. Just press the comments button on the screen. Don't forget to click the like or share buttons. If you're watching on YouTube, please click to subscribe to channel KT4. Please welcome into the studio Helen Dennis and Chris Bro. Thank you for joining me today in my virtual studio here at channel KT4. Now, there's a planning application being submitted for work on Royal Avenue opposite Salisbury Road. Can you tell me a little bit about it, please, Helen?
Good afternoon, Graham, and thank you very much for having us on the show today. So this is actually it's a pre-planning consultation stage rather than a formal application at the moment. And the only reason that I know about this, even though it's going to be right outside my house, is that somebody very kindly posted through my door the proposed architect's plans for the mast, which of course sent me into a complete panic and spin, thinking, oh my goodness. And I ran around the neighbourhood knocking on doors saying, have you seen this? Do you know about this? And nobody did. And sort of from there, we have got together regularly and we are forming a group which we're calling ourselves Residents Against Masks. That is simply because that domain name was free and available for £10 for the year. But we are really resistant to this mast application in the avenue in Worcester Park. And so that's where we are with it. We're a small group of neighbours with a much wider audience online at the moment.
I like that, Residents Against Mast, which is RAM, isn't it? So therefore, you're going to try and ram the message across on this. Chris, what effect will these have on the local environment?
Well, I think it's important to note that these masts are huge. At least the one that's proposed next to our homes, it's going to be 20 metres high, which is 3 times the size of a normal house. So it will completely tower over the community, the residences in our area, and cast this real shadow over the homes. Not only, though, is it the huge 20-metre high mast that you have to worry about, it's also the huge 6-foot-high base stations that will be around the mast with all the supporting technology. Not only are they kind of an eyesore, but they emit noise which will affect our enjoyment of our properties, and they will just be really not very visually appealing, and we just feel that they need to be situated in areas where they are further away from houses, so that there's not so much impact on the local community and people's properties.
I've got here an image that I want to show you, which is the image of the Angel of the North. How does this bear in size? And you can see the people near it, Chris, to what this mast is going to look like.
Yeah, well, I think it's the same size, right, Helen?
Yeah, so the Angel of the North is 20 metres high, and at the moment there aren't any masts that are 20 metres high in residential areas. So when you're driving down the A3 or you're driving down the 217 and you see a big mast and you might think, goodness, that's a really big mast, it's most likely to be just 12 metres tall. So what is being proposed is significantly taller than what we're used to seeing. And one of the things that I've found difficult to imagine myself is really how big this structure is going to be, because it's not something that we've seen before. 20-metre masts do exist in China, so when you're trying to Google online for images, you can only find them in China, that they're not really anywhere else at present. But this is clearly what is planned, and our mast application we've been aware of via our local MP isn't the only application in this area. We don't know the locations because, of course, formal planning hasn't been submitted, but there will be people. It would have been me if I hadn't had the fortune of this dropping through my door, sitting at home, sleeping well at night at present, and this could well be planned outside your home, and right now you're not going to know anything about that.
That's a bit scary, isn't it, really? It really is.
It's quite incredible. It's quite incredible.
I can ask a question here to both of you. I had an extension built on my little property on Old Malden Lane. And when I did that, by law, I had to post planning applications everywhere so that the neighbours knew and could respond and could write comment on the planning application for Surrey County Council. Is this not the same sort of thing?
Well, it seems that in order to build the 5G infrastructure, the government it was passed in Parliament that this would be permitted development. So that means that it can be developed really without the full planning application process. Now, there is a code of conduct document for telecommunications companies to work to. And because this site has been rated an amber site, they have a green, amber, red site by the surveyor, they rate those, then there should be community consultation. But from the feedback we've received from Epsom and Ewell Council, is that is unlikely to happen in this case. So these literally could go up uncontrolled in our borough, and residents will not have any powers or be listened to in their objections, and that is the scary reality of it.
I think it is a little bit, but I noticed that you've got a little bit of strong support, especially from our local MP, Chris Grayling. There's a nice picture. I believe that's your home, Helen.
That is my house, yes, and the mast will be just between where the 5G is in the banister.
Okay, we'll have a look at that, because what I've got, Helen and Chris, I've got some artist impressions of what the mast will look like on Royal Avenue. And so if you can talk, I'll put the pictures up, and you, between the two of you, just tell me what's going on here. Right, there we go. Straight of all, that's the avenue. In the red box, I think is where it's going to be situated.
Yeah, so this is the avenue. It's one of the main roads sort of down to the station, with lots of residential roads feeding into it. It's a very leafy, beautiful area to live, and we're very lucky. We're really fortunate to live here. You know, the other side of the avenue, there's a really pretty church. You know, if you reverse the view, it's a pretty church, and there's trees going down it, beautiful grass verges. You know, and it's a lovely road to live in, and there's nothing industrial in this area. It's purely houses.
Okay, and here's one of the Chris. This is Salisbury Road. This is the road that goes off the avenue, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's Salisbury Road. It kind of leads up to the avenue, and you can see there Helen's home there is behind the brown fence, and then you can see mine as well, which is on the opposite corner of Dean Close. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be, you know, a very, very prominent position on the road. It will. I understand that for the technology to work properly, the mast has to be higher than the trees, and so it's got to be huge in scale in order for them to put it there. And yeah, it will just completely tower over the houses.
Well, let's have a look, see what the artist's impression is. Oops, I've gone back one. There we go. Live TV for you. There we go. And
yeah, so that's outside my house. Lovely. Lovely view.
You can see, you can really get a sense of the size of the base stations there as well, because it's not just the mast, which you can't actually see the full scale of it from that picture, but the huge kind of industrial scale base stations that will also take up so much space and be an eyesore, and also, of course, emit a lot of noise.
Yeah,
if you look at the tree, sorry, Graham, if you look to the tree to the left, that's a fully grown horse chestnut tree, and that's currently 12 metres in height. So this mast is going to be almost twice the height of that horse chestnut tree on the left, to give you an idea of scale.
Okay, thank you. And Helen, I think I've got a picture about to come up, and this particular picture is a view. It is two views. One is from your garden, and the other one's from the road of the same mast. So talk me through this one. There we are.
So on the left-hand side, it's actually my neighbour's garden, because standing in my garden, I can't actually fit the mast in the frame of the camera. It's just going to be too tall. I've even laid back in my hammock and tried to take a photo, and I just can't get the full mast in view. It's going to literally tower above us. And it would, in fact, if it fell, fall on our house. It's that close. This is actually a view from my neighbour next door's garden, just to show that really it will be very visual for houses all around, really, because it's so much taller than the trees in the area.
Yeah, it looks absolutely huge, doesn't it? Chris, I've got the surveyor's drawings here. What are your thoughts when you see this?
Yeah, I mean, our thoughts were that the drawings kind of completely misrepresent the scale and the impact. They place a lot of emphasis on kind of how high the hedging will be in order to kind of mitigate the visual impact, but we don't think that is accurate. And yeah, I think they really just haven't given a proper perspective to how tall this thing is and the impact it will have.
One of our big issues with the surveyor's report is that the telecommunications companies are, when the government loosened the planning laws in order to allow this infrastructure to be built, they basically placed upon the telecommunication companies the responsibility to consider alternate sites. So that's really all the telecommunications company has to do. They have to demonstrate to the council that they have genuinely considered alternate sites. And our issue with this application is that the alternate sites, of which there are 4 locations that have been discounted in the area, are basically completely inaccurate. So, for example, on a map, it will say things like, D3, Linden Bridge School, and D3 isn't Linden Bridge School at all. D4, this is a location which isn't suitable, although there is mast infrastructure there. It's someone's private garden. There is no mast infrastructure there. They've said things like 100 metres up the road, they've discounted due to its proximity to people's homes, when in fact, this location is exactly the same proximity to people's homes. So the surveyor's report is actually quite misleading to the council. The photo that they've submitted, I think the surveyor was on his knees so that he could basically just show the fence and the hedge and the road, and he's managed to cut out any homes in the view that he took. Again, completely misleading and misrepresenting the location for this mast. So there is, I think, genuine concerns about the integrity of what's happened here. And interestingly, we have written our concerns to the council, but we're getting a wall of silence back. And lawyers and magistrates have written to the council saying that you must discard this application because you've been presented with false information. But we're not getting anything back from the council or any reassurances that this is what their plan is, to discount it and reject it, based on the fact that it's a misleading application.
But Helen, I also see, these are really awfully big, ugly things to have in such a wonderful residential area, particularly when I see that Vodafone are using manhole covers to build 5G cities. Why can't they be used in this instance? Here's a picture.
Yeah. I can't see any reason why they can't be used, but I can see a commercial reason why the telecoms communications companies wouldn't want to, because these have to be sited every 200 metres, whereas a mast will have a range up to 500 metres. So it's just going to be cheaper to put masts up rather than manhole covers. And from my research online, for example, the area around Edinburgh Castle, the infrastructure has been put into street lamps and phone boxes. So there are, in fact, ways in which this can be well camouflaged, and it doesn't have to be a visual eyesore for any of us. But pressure needs to be put, I think, and councils need to force telecommunications companies into spending more. After all, they are hugely wealthy companies, to lessen the impact for residents, because I just think what they're asking of residents with these vast masts is just asking too much of us as a population, really, to tolerate these every 500 metres.
But is there also a kind of like a health risk to these masts?
Well, that is what most residents' concerns are based on. And having looked into it, the government is playing down the health risks. And in fact, they've asked councils not to consider that when objecting or rejecting a mast application. But the World Health Organization states that the radio waves, when 5G is introduced, and the impact that they will have on health is very unclear. And at the moment, they are in the process of carrying out a health risk assessment on the whole radio wave lengths, and in particular 5G when it's added. But that's not going to be published until 2022. Now, the type of non-iodizing radiation that 5G will use is obviously not currently happening in this country, so it's difficult to know about health risks. But there are clear studies that demonstrate damage to the DNA. The radiation is referred to as RFR radiation, and it's known to cause cancers in animals, for example. And I think there are genuine concerns in other countries. So, for example, Switzerland, Sweden, Slovenia and the Netherlands at present have halted the rollout of 5G so that the governments can look again at these health concerns. And I suppose, as a nurse, and having run some research trials, the biggest risk to health is actually unknown risk. Okay, when you know what a risk is, you can put in screening, you can mitigate those risks. But when there is an unknown risk or an unclear risk, that is what rings the biggest alarm bells for doctors and nurses, because we're trying to monitor and observe and spot something that is unknown.
But Chris, how are you getting on with building support for opposition to the Mast site?
Yeah, so we, since we found out about it, we've been around the local neighbourhood and really just trying to raise awareness in the local Worcester Park community that telecoms companies are now rolling out 5G masts in earnest, and they're on an industrial scale. They're 20 meters high with large base stations, and we're trying to kind of let residents know that they could be appearing at an end of a garden near you and sometime soon. And this is certainly what the Telecoms Company 3 has proposed on the avenue near Dean Close and Salisbury Road. And the purpose of our campaigning is to let the telecoms companies know that where they are attempting to erect such gigantic masts in such an inconsiderate and an irresponsible way, not properly taking into account the impact that they're having on local communities and people's properties, we hope to be able to oppose those developments and avoid the detrimental impacts. So we have been trying to kind of gain as much support in the local community as possible. We've been around, spoken to people. We've had the support of our local MP, Chris Grayling, who's been to visit the site and said that the proposed location was completely inappropriate. We've also instructed lawyers to help us fight the planning application, and we're hoping to get similar support to that which we've had from our local MP, Chris Grayling, from our local borough councillors, Lucy McIntyre, Phil Neal and Robert Foote. But I must say to date that we're a little disappointed in the support or lack thereof that we've received from our local councillors. Whilst Phil and Robert have both been kind enough to kind of provide us with contact details of the people we should raise our concerns to, they've stopped short of actually voicing any opposition to the plans. And to be honest, we don't feel like they're doing everything they can to represent us and fight for us. Since I've moved to Worcester Park, this is the first occasion that I've really had to trouble the local councillors for support on an issue, and I must say I've been slightly underwhelmed to date. And to be honest, we don't even know if they do oppose the plans. But for all we know, they could support them. But they're our local councillors, and we expect them to support us in the issues which matter to us and really will impact on our local community. And so we're hoping, and we are appealing to them to kind of to come on board and give us their full support.
I think we probably need to just keep applying the pressure, and I'm sure that the Residents Association should be able to apply pressure on your behalf, on behalf of RAM, because I know that members of the Residents Association are very supportive of what RAM is trying to achieve. And I certainly will be talking to my councillors to see actually what they're doing. I'm just going to do a commercial break at the moment, because I'm going to say, if anybody's listening and you want to make a comment or ask a question to Helen and Chris, please press the comments button, write it down, and we'll put it up on screen and we'll ask Chris and Helen directly. So in the meantime, what are you hoping at the end of this? What are you really hoping to achieve?
Well, we hope that the telecoms company will just withdraw their plans to site a mast here. But beyond that, I would like a clear message, really, the council to become more forceful, really, to enforce responsible siting of these mast applications with them. I would like the councils to force the telecommunications companies to, camouflage them better, to, make it less visible, to spend more money than they are currently going to do in building this infrastructure, because I don't think anybody anywhere in their homes has any idea when we hear about 5G's coming. It's going to be terrific. We're going to have driverless cars, because it isn't actually a technology that is going to benefit people in their homes. And I think that's where a lot of miscommunication is coming about. So 5G, for example, will give you transmission and connectivity speeds of about 130 megabytes, okay? Between 130 and 240 megabytes. But in fact, Virgin Media Broadband, and particularly their Project Lightning network, which is available already within Worcester Park, you just have to, sign up to it and pay for it, of course, but that offers 362 megabytes. So it is in fact quicker than 5G within the home. So it isn't going to be of benefit to people in their homes having 5G masts outside towering above their homes. The benefit will be eventually in years to come, but probably 10, 15 years, in relation to speeds outside of the home. So for example, when we've all given up our cars and we're no longer driving, which is probably 15 to 20 years away, I would imagine, maybe sooner, and we're all just ordering our driverless Uber pod to our door, and we're, driverless cars are rolled out across the country, then we will need this transmission rate outside, in the streets. We will need that, of course, to run these vehicles and so forth. But it isn't something that's going to, in particular, benefit businesses in this area, because we actually have fibre optic available in this area with much faster speeds than 5G. And for homes, of course, you've got one of the providers is Virgin Media Broadband, which, of course, again, is faster than 5G. So there's a lot of misinformation, and we have had councillors repeating back to us that there will be benefits for homeschooling and for home working, and that is actually untrue, and it needs to stop.
Okay, when you're talking about councillors now, are we talking about borough councillors, or is this conversations with the Surrey County Council?
This is conversations with our feedback from local councillors, yeah, which makes me realise that, of course, until a few weeks ago, I didn't know anything about this technology. I didn't understand it either, and I don't think the population as a whole, there aren't enough conversations around this, so that people really don't understand the ins and outs of it. So they're taking the surveyors' listed benefits at face value without exploring it further. And unfortunately, the surveyor's report is, I think, a deliberate attempt to mislead the council in order to get this site approved. Once they get this through, these masts will go up anywhere, because it's a beautiful tree line area. So once this one is through, there's no stopping any of them.
Chris?
Absolutely. And I think, the point to make, Graham, is that we're not opposed to the technology in itself, but it has to be rolled out in a responsible and proportionate manner. It shouldn't be rolled out in a way that it has a real detrimental impact on people's property and people's lives. If they have to put more thought into where these masts should be sited, and that's something that is evident from the surveyor's report, that they haven't done. They haven't really spent the time and effort, and of course money that will be required to do better diligence on the local area, and find a site that is going to have the minimum impact on people's properties. And so that work needs to be done. That responsibility needs to be taken by Three and any other telecoms companies that are thinking about putting these huge masts in people's communities.
I think it's the due diligence of getting all the correct information and having the right people on board to give you, the residents, the right information so you can pass it on to the councillors who are working or should be working on the residents' behalf. So what's your plan? That's the big question. What's the plan?
So, I mean, as I previously said, Graham, I think the plan is just to kind of, raise as much support locally as possible, to let the telecoms companies know that they can't do this on the cheap. They need to give proper consideration to where they are putting these masts. As I said, we have instructed lawyers who are experts in opposing planning applications. So we are crowdfunding for funds to support that action. We've already had the support of our local MP, Chris Grayling, which is great. And yeah, really, we want to get the word out and do everything that we can to oppose this development. At the moment, we're kind of trying to clarify the process. We understand that it can be done under permitted development. So we do have kind of limited room for objections, but we're essentially trying to do everything we can. We're trying to garner as much support and let the telecoms company know, let our councillors know that this is not on, and we won't accept it.
Okay, I know that you're trying to find ways, of course, to do this properly. You need legal support and various things like that, and that costs money. So I believe you've now set up a crowdfunding site, and I think it's now approaching nearly £1,000. So congratulations. It's getting better. I've been watching it, and it is getting better. So I think you've articulated it, Chris, but is there anything else? I think I'll put a slide up which will show various ways in which people can make contact. And I'll leave that up for a little while. If you'd like to expand on any of this, either of you, whilst we show that slide, so people might want to take this information down.
So the email address that's sliding along the bottom of the screen, that is our core email address. So if you're interested in joining the mailing list, then please email in, and then updates will be emailed out. And if we're needing anything from residents to write there, we will direct that via that email and membership group. We've got about 50 members at the moment signed up to Residents Against Mast. So thank you. And please do spread the word and encourage membership. We do have through our website, which is the second line on the slide, we do have on there more information about the Mast application, and there are links on there to the crowdfunding site and also our Facebook page, where we're also posting sort of updates. You can follow the campaign, if you like, on Facebook.
Okay, what I'm going to do, guys, is that at some point this afternoon, that particular slide that I just put up there, I'll post that onto my Facebook channel KT4 site, and I'll cross it over to the other local community sites, so we can get the word out as far as we possibly can. Look, Helen and Chris, thanks for coming in today to my studio. I wish you well in the campaign, which I hope will continue to gather much more momentum and keep getting hold of these councillors. Make them work for our residents. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. Good luck. So this is Graham Jones broadcasting live on channel KT4. Join me next time, and until then, stay alert and, of course, stay safe.